Welcome, everyone. Happy Wednesday to you all joining us here live. And if you're watching the replay, happy Wednesday to you as well. I'm joined here today with John Benson, creator of the VSL, billion-dollar copywriter. I'm going to be answering your questions.
I found this adjustment.
Going to be answering your questions about the upcoming Attention Frameworks Masterclass. It's going to be starting here in just a couple weeks, 16th to the 18th of August for week one, and then the 23rd to the 25th. So I'm going to kind of man the room as people are coming in. John, if you want to say a few words leading into this, we got some people jumping in. Good to see you, Marty, Mary, John. Good to see everybody here. Let's see. I think you're on mute too as well, John, if you're cool.
All right, so guys can hear everything cool?
Yep.
All right, cool. Hello everyone. Howdy, as we say in Texas. So yeah, it's gonna be exciting. It's kind of this is like the third time in my career I've done this, where I created a course and got it all kind of ready to go, and then decided I wanted to do it live versus do it in a recording, just to do it more, to get more energy involved in it. And so it just so happened that Darby and the guys from Jasper, formerly known as Jarvis, formerly known as, I don't know, were you formerly known as Prince, or that reached out and said, hey, and this was just very serendipitous time. And so it's going to be really cool. And then having you guys chime in and do the recipe side of things, it's just, the combination is cool. And by the way, I apologize, I didn't get back to you, or I think I did. I think I just sent you like a really great message, but Darby sent me over last night. Was it last night? Exactly right. I think it was last night. He sent me over the 90-second VSL that Jasper wrote for Jasper. Jasper wrote for the AI author, rather. So it's kind of cool to see your own stuff like spit out and the formula was working. So
well, we figured we have the world's best here, and so we want to show you what we're working on too. So
it's very cool. It's very, very cool. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be intense. It's 6 days and 2 hours at a shot, but you'll walk away with learning more about video sales than you probably ever thought that you ever wanted to learn. But the cool thing is all applicable. It's all stuff you can put to use right then and there. You can start like literally the first day, you're going to be diving into stuff, and there's no way you can do it like unless you're just a sadomasochist and you have or you're like, you got nothing to do the whole day but this, then maybe that. But the stuff we're going to give you just for the assignments we're going to give you, I don't expect anyone to turn around and do them all the next day, but just doing like a little bit of it will change the way you you look at avatar research, the way that you look at hooks, the way you look at where things go in VSLs. Everything's going to hopefully change. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and I know one thing we're really excited about, just in general with this course and doing it live, is the recipes that we're working on and developing, and how Jasper can continue to be pushed, to the kind of the limits of what we're using it at now, which is obviously it's already producing incredible content, but so as obviously as we're going through this course, the first week is going to be you, John, teaching 2 hours at a time, the entire course, and there's going to be homework involved with it. And then week 2 is going to be a lot of like integration of what you guys learn, obviously inside of the course, but also, deep diving into Jasper and, really, working, directly having that one-on-one line with myself, Zachariah, and our team to, help, tweak and refine the recipes as you're using them. Whenever we make recipes, they're never perfect right out the gate, as much as we'd like them to. But they're pretty good. And we're spending a lot of time on these recipes in particular over the last few months. So, I'm excited to see how that integrates with what's obviously being taught. And, even a matter of just like shrinking the time it's going to take to write one of these VSLs from whatever months to just a matter of days, even.
So
cool.
Even the mini VSLs can take someone, like days to try to figure out like what goes here, what goes there, tweaking conversions, all that stuff. So the mini VSL, excuse me, we've got down to what, a couple of minutes, maybe 5, and but the stuff that goes in those blanks, that's what takes a little bit longer. Once you learn that stuff, how to build a powerful hook, how do you speak your avatar's language? This is super important, so that what you put into Jasper it comes out so much better, because you're giving it's like, the old garbage in, garbage out acronym applies to some degree. While Jasper is really smart at finding stuff and creating stuff in its own, the better the words that you put in, the better the way that you describe the pain points, that you describe and we're going to talk about all of that and how to find the right words to use without being a copywriter. In fact, I just did this 2 or 3 hour webinar yesterday with Miles Beckler. He's a big guy on YouTube and good guy. And we talked a lot about copywriting, obviously. And he said that one of the tools that you all get that are a member of this course get for free is my software, Now VSL. And he was talking about his experience with it, because it will produce an entire VSL. There's a lot of work that goes into that there's a lot of blanks that you fill in. There's a lot of questions that you answer, and there's training videos that help you through it and all. But there's no way to escape the level of work that you're going to put into it. But what you escape is the months and months of drudgery of knowing, trying to figure out what goes next and what to say next. And that alone, I mean, that alone is just worth every penny of it to me. But then when you start talking, like we were talking yesterday, like, wow, like his avatar was saying something slightly different than he was saying, but learning what they were saying and seeing it repeated, like in the places that we tell you to look, it's very powerful. You type that into Jasper, and Jasper's going to start using that versus the words that you originally used. And next thing you know, you're really talking so much more intimately with what I call your ideal buyer, the people you want to buy your products and services. And by the way, I'm getting a message from my assistant saying she's in the waiting room trying to get in. So I don't know what that means, but didn't think Zoom had one. So
Darby, I'm not a host. I think you're the only host here. John, and I can speak to that too. I mean, when Darby and I are working now, and I'm just as excited to hop into and learn inside of this course as well, because it's really what we're finding is like, what do Jasper members need? Like, are we actually serving them? Are we actually providing a service as to what they're truly looking for? And then, the one big idea training, right? Really narrowing that down into finding the correct hooks to put inside of that template. I mean, Darby and I go back and forth all the time of like, does this make sense? Does this make sense? I mean, and just a little bit of training we've had with you, I'm really starting to see the importance of like that one big idea, the one hook, and kind of creating, like you talk about, the like you say, your Beechwood aged, right, is an example you use that Budweiser used. I wonder if you could speak to that a little more, like the difference in, I'm not sure if you showed a lot of testimonials in the training already, but can you just speak to the difference in like knowing and not knowing that, and then maybe what can be achieved, like adding the power of AI on top of that?
Well, so those 2-word, 3-word hooks, in that case, it's a hook and a big idea both. So maybe let me just go back.
Sure.
Please. So how many of you, can you raise your hands who are on the camera, or just digitally raise your hands if you've seen Mad Men, the television show? Okay, so right. So back in the Mad Men era, Madison Avenue admin, which still exists, but nowhere near the height it was in the 50s and 60s. They basically were writing taglines and headlines, and this is what they were making ungodly amounts of money doing, and drinking all day and smoking all the time. Apparently that people in the 1950s just smoked every single moment of the day and drank every moment of the day. But however they lived and however they managed to get through that era, they came up with some really great headlines, some really great taglines. But these taglines, which we call hooks and big ideas, are so much more powerful in the digital medium than they could ever have been in the print medium. Because in the print medium, you would see it once, it might stick in your head, and that's it. And then you would buy the product, or you wouldn't. Maybe you would see it again if they had the ad budget for it. But in the digital medium, you can take a hook or a big idea, 2 words, or 3 words or just a concept, and string that concept through every single thing that you do. Blog posts, emails, articles, ads, everything. It's all a through line, and we call it a golden thread. So a golden thread moves right through everything that you do. So the difference in a VSL, let's talk just video sales letters for a moment. 1 minute, 5 minute, my 60-minute VSLs. The difference between those that have a golden thread and those that don't, I mean, I just have rarely seen one that doesn't have that work very well. And in today's world where traffic is so much competition for it, it's almost impossible to get something to convert that doesn't have a really strong hook. And I'm not, so when people say here hook, they think something gimmicky, right? They think something necessarily gimmicky, but the hooks I gave as examples on the live webinar that we did with Muscle Confusion by P90X, Beechwood Age by Budweiser, those aren't gimmicky necessarily at all. It depends on how you define it, of course, but what Budweiser did is they took a process that everyone was using. Just about everybody in beer was dumping beer into these big vats, and these vats had little strips of beechwood in the bottom of them. And so their marketing guys just said, we just aged this in a vat, and let's call it Beechwood Age. Well, all they did was name the process. So, but the process became so synonymous with Budweiser, it made them $4 billion. So no one else could come back after that and said, hey, we're Beechwood aged as well. Because can you just hear how awful that would sound? I don't even have to explain it, right? It's like, hey, we're Miller, we're Beechwood aged too. It just, no one would care. It'd be like the worst marketing campaign ever ran. So once you coin something and brand it to yourself, and I don't mean necessarily trademarking or anything, but just start talking about it more frequently, people will start relating to the problem and the solution by your own vernacular. If that happens, then the difference between that and a normal video sales letter or a normal email or a normal sales page, it's just night and day. And normally what happens is people come to people like me or Don Draper and Mad Men or whomever to write these things, and we get paid a lot of money to do that. And that's great. But what if there was a way to teach anyone how to do that? And that's what I spent the last 2 years of my life trying to figure out how to do. And we did. We figured out how to do it, to where I've got people working as part-time admins that are coming up with hooks that are just as good as the hooks that we come up with. So it's just a way of thinking through the process to where it removes a lot of the necessary creativity. Like I can come up with them much faster because that's my job. That's what I do for a living. But when you walk through the steps that we're going to go through in the training, you'll see how much faster your brain just unlocks. It's like giving yourself a key to your subconscious mind and your conscious mind to where you unlock the creativity that every one of you have. So that's the other lie that I want to dispel. I'm giving you a little bit of the sermon here, but sorry, but I have to set all this up. There's a lie that says that people are born creative or that you're not creative, and that's just not true. We've proven that not only in practical reasons, they've actually proven it in neuroscience. So we know for sure that everyone can tap into much deeper zones of creativity. And all I'm going to be doing in the first couple of hours of our first session is helping you tap into that. Wow. And once you do, your marketing changes. It just totally changes. And we're going to apply that to a video sales letter, specifically a long form video sales letter. So if you have the course right now, you got free access to Now VSL, which is my software for that. This is not AI. This is not Jasper. We're not competitors. But on the other hand, this can spit out a 70-minute VSL. It's the only software on the planet that can. It takes a lot of work for you. But before you start doing that, I want you to go through and see the formula. They've got the formula. They know the formula. We're working at getting it actually into Jasper. It's going to be a while, but the whole thing, the whole 60-minute thing. But before you do, I think it's more wise to know your avatar, to learn the languages, the patterns that they use. And then it's just the world is your oyster. If you can speak your avatar's language, the world is your oyster. That is my lesson to you.
So it almost seems like the Attention Framework Masterclass is not just for VSLs, but it can be used, the VSL template and all the AI stuff, but it's the base of their product and everything that they create inside of AI moving forward. So blog posts, like you said, the golden thread into whatever they do inside of Jasper, any content that they create, this is really going to set up that level, them for success.
Without a doubt. So I mean, it's it can be just 2-3 words. It could be an idea, like, for example, the idea of the end of America for Agora back in the day. That was $100 million VSL. But the concept that the end of America as we know it financially is right upon us. And this was right before the 2007, economic collapse. So actually he was pretty much right, and kind of interesting. But it was the most boring. It was so ugly. It was very ugly. All the slides looked like they were done by somebody who had just picked up a copy of PowerPoint circa 1997. And the guy narrating it, his name's Porter Stansberry. I remember this because I met Porter once, and he had my first comment to the guy that wrote it. And I said, this will never work. This guy's got a terrible voice. And I hate financial stuff. So I admit it, I'm biased. I'm just bored by it immediately. So boy, was I ever wrong. I was completely way off. But if you hear this guy's voice, it's like, hi, my name is Porter Stansberry. And I'm falling asleep just imitating the guy. And this thing went on to do $100 million. So insane amount of sales for Agora. And Agora ended up being $1 billion marketing company, and got a really nice testimonial from their owner saying that he owes me at least $100 million, which I wish he would pay. I really do. But that's the power of an idea. So his idea was so much better than his voice, so much better than his slides. The idea was just awesome. And that's what Mike Palmer came up with, the genius copywriter that did it. So, and you don't have to be a genius. I just keep saying this. If you knew how to tap into these ideas, and that's why we're going to start there. So this whole thing isn't about hooks and ideas, but I want you to get the big picture that if you had that and it went through everything that you did, it changes every single thing that you ever write, whether it's an email, a newsletter, or whatever. It changes everything. And I'll give you one more example of this. I could give you 1,000, but you guys probably don't know, unless you're marketers, the company Golden Hippo, but you probably know, ran by a good friend of mine who's a great copywriter, and they're going to be another $1 billion company. So they've just really taken off. But you probably heard of Stephen Gundry. How many of you have heard of Stephen Gundry? Any Stephen Gundry? Okay, so that's interesting. So that's cool if you haven't. Well, he's like one of the largest doctors. He's a Harvard doctor, and he's all over the internet. All over these VSLs that are more high produced VSLs, like a lot of camera work and all that stuff. But the scripts are all the same idea. And the first VSL that they did was the one one of the first ones they did was one that they hired me for. And I was like, well, Craig's a great writer. Why are you hiring me? Well, I want you to come up with a big idea. Well, the script I came up with was absolute crap. It was terrible. It was terrible. I was going through a bad breakup at the time. I was just so not into it. But the hook I came up with ended up being the hook that they still use to this very day. They just switched to a different product, and it became one of their top selling VSL. So the hook, the big idea, it stays through line, it goes through all their stuff, and it's what people remember. So if I talk about this thing in your body called the cardiac killer, that's a hook. If you've seen the VSL once, you know it, because it's drilled in your head over and over and over again. So what is the monetary value of that? Well, it's really, it's in the millions for sure, more than they ever paid me. So what's going to be the monetary value for you if you get just an idea? It doesn't have to be hooky sounding. It could just be an idea that says, hey, here's a different way of looking at X. And your X could be dog training, chiropractic care, brick and mortar. It does not matter. It's a different way of looking at this we call blank. And you talk about that blank so frequently that people get latched onto it. And that becomes the only answer to the problem. So that's what I want to help you do. And that is just the first day. So we're gonna have some fun. Then we'll start talking about applying it to VSLs. That's actually pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I see there's some questions in the chat here too. And maybe just a rundown. I really love, and that might have been my bad, guys. I really love the hook and attention and that getting that piece, but that's just the first day. So John, if you maybe want to touch on what is fully covered inside Attention Framework.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, sorry, I get off on that a lot because it's such the cornerstone. So the very first day, we're going to be talking about more than just hooks. We're going to be talking about the most important thing that you can learn from me or from anyone else, and that is how to speak your buyer's language. So you have an ideal buyer, and they all have unique language patterns. And I saw this so viscerally when I started looking at Jasper, really diving in with these guys and seeing what it can do research-wise. and seeing how the words come out, and the data are there. The data, it's like, having your fingertips on the internet, right? And that's awesome. But the words and how that data is phrased is a lot different sometimes when your avatar starts speaking them. So knowing who your ideal buyer is and what words that they are using to describe their pain and describe their dreams, and you use those exact same words back to them in copy, that's not you being a copywriter. That's you being able to copy and paste. So that's a different level of copywriter. You're literally copying and pasting. I'm going to give you a place to go. It's more than one, to do that research. And then in Jasper, you enter that into these fields, or in now VSL, you enter that into the fields. And now the language is getting dialed in. And that's when all kinds of magical stuff's going to happen. So that's going to be the very first day that we cover. And the next 2 days are devoted completely into the 9 steps that build what I call an attention framework. We'll probably cover a little bit the first day as well, but if you saw the webinar, you know that there are 9 different steps, 9 components of this framework. And a framework, if you don't know, is if you think of a lattice work of something, like it's the thing that holds it together, right? It's like a blueprint it's like the foundation, the steel works you see in a building, right? So, but the difference between a framework and a script is like, okay, so you got a script goes here, script goes here. What I'm saying is make sure at this point in your script that you say this. Make sure at this point in your script, you open this loop, that you do this, that you do this. And that is the actual framework for the VSL. So if I broke out just those 9 steps and I said, okay, do you have each of these 9 steps covered? The chances of you having a good VSL just skyrocketed to the moon. I mean, much higher chance of you having a good VSL. So all the scripts that go in between it, you have a lot more flexibility to be average, to be an average writer, to be an average copywriter, or to use copy that's right out of Jasper, which oftentimes is really good. So you don't have to be an excellent copywriter if you've got all these 9 components in a long form VSL and you have them down. So we're going to talk about what they are, why it's so important to focus on being noticed. And I'm not talking about being noticed for yourself necessarily, but how being the concept of noticing is incredibly important to keeping attention throughout that whole 30 minutes. Maybe yours is 30, maybe yours is 20, maybe yours is 90. I've seen 90-minute VSLs. You have to keep attention. So I call it securing attention. So how do you do that? It's by being noticed. But there's more to being noticed than saying, hey, look, flash, that doesn't work very long. That's a very quick and over. It's done and over in about 10 seconds. So we want to continue to be noticed without being flashy. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to be talking about the concept of one, how important it is to have one idea conveyed, one big idea. Now, some of that is the hook, but some of that is also the problem, that you narrow a problem down to one thing. How do you do that? How do you take a problem that's multifaceted, make it one thing? Then how do you own it? That's pretty cool. But also little things that are throughout the VSL. When I talk about, I'll show you what I'm talking about here. How many places you should mention the word one. There's a reason for that psychologically. We'll go into that. And then we're going to be talking about the differences between wants and needs, and how important it is to understand that you sell wants and you deliver needs, and how to do that linguistically so that your customers or potential customers or potential buyers, if you have clients or patients, are reading this going, man, it's like this person is like wrote this for me. And you can get that, you can elicit that reaction if you understand, now you can see like, oh, it goes back to the avatar research. And then we're putting it all together inside the 5-step VSL formula, and there you have it. So that's what we'll be covering. And a lot more. There's a lot of psychology, a lot of interesting persuasion talk that we're going to be having. But it's really going to be applicable once we get into the second week, which is where you're going to take this and start creating with these guys, not just your 90-second VSL, which is the first one you want to create, but also you're taking this and applying it to now VSL to create your long form VSL, which is because you're going to need somewhere to drive these people. You want a sales page from those 90-second ads, and you want them to go to a very specific place. So that is an overview of attention frameworks. And the best framework I've ever come up with is what I call it the attention framework, just because it commands attention throughout the whole VSL. It just keeps opening attention loops throughout the whole
Mhm.
VSL. It's an NLP term. So I'm going to open a loop. I'm going to come back to an idea, open a loop, come back to an idea. I'm going to close every loop. Those are all attention getters, and they make the mind go, oh wait, what did he say? What was that again? Like, so all of a sudden it's like snapping your fingers in the middle of a conversation. You should try this sometime. You should be talking to your friends. If you ever notice them kind of dozing off, just snap your fingers, and all of a sudden everybody will just stare at you. And like you've completely scratched the surface of their brain to where you got their attention right back on what you're talking about.
Mhm.
What's really interesting is after you do that, whatever you say next is much more highly recognized by the subconscious mind as something to act on. So you could use that for very, very bad things. So please don't use this for very bad things, but this is true. This is how the mind works. So that's how you see stage hypnosis guys able to, okay, when I snap my fingers, you will bark like a dog. Well, that's how it's working. Okay, now they're doing other things too, and they're doing things for fun, but there's so, and you're not hypnotizing anybody in your VSL, but it does work along the same lines, and all communication that's effective works along the same lines. You want to continue to be interesting. And this is what we're going to be doing. So it's a great way of selling without being too salesy. It's a great way of selling without ever lying about anything, which I don't want to do ever. So you don't ever have to lie. You just have to be brave enough to tell the truth. So we're going to be going over all of these concepts in those 3 days. So hope it sounds exciting. You're going to learn a lot.
Yeah, I mean, something that I've noticed personally in going through the content and just learning from you at a much deeper level since we've connected is the ability to like keep improving and using these different principles inside of how you talk throughout even a mini VSL that you guys can access right now. Like, how effective can you communicate your idea is the difference between it actually catching on versus it being a good idea that you can't articulate and it's just going to fall by the wayside. And it's not just even in your like marketing message, right? I'm talking to people, friends, and I'm noticing that if I'm opening and I'm saying and I'm articulating sentences certain ways, I'm holding attention longer, just regular conversation without even trying to be like in like VSL mode, it's starting to bleed into other forms of communication. Just something I've noticed there. But
this is definitely not limited to just VSLs.
Yeah.
I mean, we use, I think it's important to have a medium. So this is why it's called the Attention Framework VSL Masterclass. Eventually, I'm just going to call it the VSL Masterclass, probably because it's going to become ubiquitous with what I'm doing, that name anyway. But it's the stuff that we're going to be talking about in there, and I think my assistant's on the call with me, and she could verify this. We use it in every single thing that we do. Like, it doesn't matter what. Forget the medium. It's just you could just take the medium out of it, but I want to make sure that you walk away with something that tangible. So you have right now you have software that is literally can create a VSL for you. That's awesome because that doesn't exist anywhere but now. I mean, a whole long 60-minute VSL. You have software that will create in Jasper the mini VSL right now. You have that right now. And what I want to help you to do is put the right frameworks in before you ever press a button. Just get make sure you got these 9 things going for you. 3 things in a mini VSL, or 3 of the 9. And boom. I mean, watch the difference. The difference will be a lot. The difference will be quite significant.
I have a question from the crowd real quick.
Yeah.
From just a bit earlier. George asks, John, what are your thoughts about using mini VSLs and VSLs for a new brand, starting with a new audience, looking to find product market fit?
Oh, yeah. I mean, mini VSLs drive intense curiosity. I mean, that's what they were designed to do. So I mean, when we first started with the formula, in fact, I think I responded to you, Darby, I don't remember if I responded to both of you, but on your VSL, I said, hey, if we could even get in watch this video for the next 58 seconds, right? Because the original script of mine had, there's the whole pattern to everything that we're doing, right? And so beyond the very first introduction, what we call a lead, beyond the lead, there was a command, an NLP command, watch this video for the next X amount of seconds. And it was going to be whenever you gave a URL or whatever it's going to be, you just count how long that's going to be. But the reason I'm bringing that up is because when you're talking about launching a new product, new service, and you tell them that you're going to get something in 37 seconds or 49 seconds, the oddity of that number, the oddity of that right there is someone's going to stick around if they're at all interested in the very first thing that you said, because they know it's only going to take X amount of time. So a great way to drive leads is why they're being used all over the internet to drive leads, to cold traffic, Facebook ads, YouTube ads. You see them all the time. Sometimes they're same script, only they're a human being. Sometimes they're just slides. I think for a new brand, it's going to be excellent. As long as your new brand and your new product conveys a new idea, and that new idea is what I call the hook or the big idea. So that's going to be in the training. So hopefully we can make sure that yours is covered.
And then Charles had a question too. He says he's not understood Jasper properly. Is it wise to take this course with only a dim understanding of Jasper?
For what it's worth, I had no understanding of Jasper at all until granted, I'm teaching the course, but I can guarantee you, that's this and Jasper are two different things until week 2, and then you'll walk away with week 2 with Darby and Zachary and these guys. You'll walk away with no questions at all about Jasper, because they're going to show you exactly how to integrate it all. And Jasper, to me, guys, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not saying the recipes are easy, because you got some, things in there that are, you have to know a little bit of, what to type in and all that stuff, but it's not hard. And certainly the templates in Jasper are super easy. You're just filling in blanks. So yeah, I would think that's the least of the concerns. And I knew nothing about Jasper, except I knew them indirectly, because we have I wouldn't say we're competitors, because we're in 2 different approaches to the same problem in CopyPro and Jasper. But I avoid everybody else's platforms on purpose, because I don't want to ever, accidentally or be accused of taking an idea and, for better or for worse. And so I was able to, get in there and play around with it with no problem. So I think that you'll have no issues.
And I think something that helps in just anyone that's wanting to continue to get better with their Jasper use, get the most out of Jasper, it all comes back down to that avatar research and what, like, the stuff that we're going to be doing and covering in week 1 on day 1 as well. Because, at the end of the day, the stronger your content brief is and the stronger the context of the inputs that you're giving Jasper, the better the AI is going to build off of the ideas that you're putting into it, right? And so if we were doing this in reverse, I would say it'd be a much more difficult experience starting to try and do all this stuff in Jasper first and then apply it, which is obviously why we're starting with the homework, the avatar, the foundation of everything. And then we'll work with you throughout, week 2 and, beyond that, to like continue to refine that content brief, to work with the commands. And you'll definitely come out of this becoming much better at Jasper, as well as obviously a marketer in general.
Well, going off what Darby said, it's like you taking John's course in the beginning, you'll actually understand that which inputs you want to use and which inputs work better for your avatar once Jasper produces them, right? So Jasper can come up with 30 different benefits for the product that you're selling, right? But if only 2 of those benefits actually are what your avatar is looking for and will work for your avatar, right? That's kind of, or your buyer avatar, right? Whatever it is. That's where I think the power of what John is doing here is like really truly understanding that first before you ever enter anything into Jasper.
Yes, exactly. This is what in the workshop, if you haven't seen it, I'm sure they'll put a link up here, but in the workshop, I say these are the things that you do before you ever write a word, or before you ever type a keyword into Jasper, or write a word in Now VSL. This is what you do before. And the questions that you're going to ask yourself, obviously you have to have the VSL to answer the questions yes or no, but the homework that you do to get those yeses of those 9 questions to build the framework, that's all the stuff you can do all of this well prior to ever writing a word. So this is and what's really cool about this is if you go all the way, if you do this exercise I'm going to give you and create what I call an avatar's diary, and I'm going to walk you through the entire exercise, you will use this diary as the marketing Bible for the rest of your life. I mean, and maybe it will evolve as people evolve over time, but this diary is the best thing I've ever seen when it comes down to having something you can read and go, I just know I know my avatar better than they know themselves. Once you do that, it's again, the world is your oyster. When it comes down to what you're marketing, you're going to separate yourself from a lot of people, and you'll stop. Like a lot of companies I talk to, I'll ask them, well, so tell me about your avatar. And they're like, no, they're men and women between the ages of 30 and 47 who, I go, no, that's not your avatar. That's a demographic. That's not a person. What's your avatar's name? And they look at me like I fell off the turnip bus, man. It's like, I said, what, you don't have a name for your avatar? Like, well, no, yeah. So what are her greatest fears? Looking at me like, what on earth are you talking about? Well, oh, just imagine if you knew that information, greatest fears as it pertains to what you're talking about, not greatest existential fears, but so we're going to show you where to find that information and how to apply it inside of VSL. And once you talk to someone in that way, you're going to find that you don't need to sell. You don't need to be I'm not saying you shouldn't pitch. I think you should pitch hard. I'm a big believer in that. But by the time you get to that, they're already primary sold. But you're going to pitch, you're going to sell much less because you're talking directly to somebody's core values, directly to who they are. And you've done the research so that you know. So if I can give you one example before we get into another question, I think I gave this example on the workshop. I can't remember, but it's like I write a lot in the fitness space. So it's how I got known as a copywriter, and I've written 4 books in that space. And I remember, like, I was using in my first book, first emails going out for my first book back in 2004. That's how long I've been doing this. I was using terms like, ripped abs and, shredded to the bone and things that we bodybuilders and fitness athletes say all the time. And 6 months later, I find out that my primary, don't laugh, 6 months later, I was a newbie. Okay. My primary buyer, my ideal buyer, what I call my ideal buyers, or that primary demographic that's in, was 69-year-old female. I'm just curious, any 69-year-old females that that care about ripped abs? I mean, there are, I know them, but they're like, you can count them on my one hand for sure. it's so, and I'm using this because I'm 40 and I'm using this, guy jargon and, coming at it as an athlete and all this stuff, and it's way off base. I'm surprised I sold a book. I just had really, really good sales copy written by somebody else, to be honest with you. But before, this is long before I became a copywriter, but that's how important it is to know the avatars. I mean, I look back and my partner at the time, my business partner, he said, you could have retired, at 41. You could have retired. You could have just if you just would have known who you were writing to, right? If just taken the time, but I was in a hurry, I was lazy, whatever you want to call it, ignorant. I was definitely ignorant because it's my first foray into internet marketing. But so I want to help you avoid that entirely. That's one thing you're going to get out of this for sure, and then applying it to the BSL. So
amazing. Deb had a question. She said, for the workshop, will there be hot seat sessions or some mechanism for individual feedback?
Oh yeah, there'll be some hot seat sections, especially in the last day. So we're going to put people on that have done the homework, and it's going to be, I run a meritocracy, guys. So this is not the participation trophy generation over here. I grew up in Texas. What can I tell you? Blue collar. So it's like whoever puts in the work, whoever impresses me the most gets put on the hot seat. But no, we're going to spend time, and I often do go over the allotted time. I wanted to give us 2 hours, so sometimes I'll go a little longer if I feel like if you guys are around to help. And I say you guys a lot, so I mean by everyone here, you ladies, you gentlemen, boys and girls, turtles, if you're turtles online. But yeah, whatever it takes to get this done is what we want to deliver, and if that means going over, that means going over. But I'm going to make sure everybody gets their questions answered until my voice goes out.
Cool. And then Rick asks, is the course purchase lifetime access?
Yeah, so we're not, of course, I'm not doing anything with it. So we have to be careful legally when we say lifetime access, because the internet could blow up, or what just happened could happen to us. I sold my first VSL generator called Accelerator. I sold that until literally when I say the wheels fell off, literally well, not literally, I guess, but the wheels that drove the software was 10 years old. I'm sorry, 12 years old. So just not supported anymore until finally we just had to say, look, we just can't, you either come over here or nothing. So we had to rebuild the whole thing and rebuilt it from the ground up. So lifetime access with that caveat that it could be something like that. But yeah, and as far as the digital courses and stuff, yeah, of course, yeah, you can have access to that for as long as you need it.
Great.
And I want you you might come back to this stuff. You might have to come back to going through for example, we're going to go through something called a hook map. And that hook map, you're going to come back to time and time and time again, because it's going to be something you're going to use to jog that creative part of your brain that does most certainly exist. And then all the frames, you make sure that you got all those checkpoints. It's like a little checklist. Okay. If you had a checklist before you sent out an email or before you wrote an ad, or in this case, before you created a VSL, it would make things so much easier, right? Just to make sure, can I answer yes to these questions? And so you'll want to come back to that stuff.
Okay. And then Charles, I see your question here too. I think, John, if you could maybe touch on what is an avatar. I think maybe Charles is thinking that an avatar is someone who speaks to your audience, but yeah, some insight would be great.
Great question. So I ran by that one pretty quickly, didn't I, Charles? So I call your avatar your ideal buyer. So that is your avatar. It's not a series of numbers. It's not a demographic. There's those components in there, but it boils down to a person. Okay. And it's because you are a marketer, whether you are a dentist or a copywriter or a chiropractor or real estate agent, does not matter. That's what you do for your primary job. But on the side gig, you're a marketer, whether you like it or not, because you have something that you're selling online. Hence, congratulations, you were a marketer. So you've made it into the club. Now, you might not be a professional marketer, but that doesn't let you off the hook. You still have to know what marketers know a little bit to make it work, right? And one of the things that we know is that we are selling to one person. We're just selling to one person 1,000,000 times over. And the distinction there, which we'll hammer home inside this course, is a mammoth distinction, because everything that you write will start sounding like it was written just to one person. The only way to do that is to understand who the person is that you're writing to, or you could do that, granted, and you could just be writing like I was when I was, younger, and said, oh, ripped abs, get shredded, all this stuff, and just completely going over over my primary ideal buyer. My ideal buyer, I wanted it to be a 35 to 45-year-old dude, a guy I'd go work out with. That's what I thought it was going to be, but no, I was completely wrong. It's completely wrong. So how do we find that out? Well, that's more than just your demographic. So if I just said, oh, knowing that it's a 69-year-old female, that's not enough. That's not it. Well, what do 69-year-old females say about this problem? I had no idea. I'm not hanging out with any 69-year-olds. So I was like, well, how do I even know that? You can't survey that, but there are places that you can go that I will show you that you can find out the answers to those questions for any product or service that you sell. And it's pretty cool. Once you do it, you'll see, oh my gosh, yeah, that opens up a whole new world. So learning how they speak, super important. So that is the avatar. Your avatar is the ideal buyer, and it's a person. It's not a freaking number. It's not dispassionate. Does that make sense? And when you start thinking this way, so just the conversation we're having today, which is not a paid conversation or anything, but this is stuff that marketers learn over years of going through courses. But I wanted to get on here and say, well, oh yeah, sure, we can answer questions about the upcoming class. That's great, but what can I give you can walk away with right now that will help you? And this is a big one, man. You talk to one person. Yeah. Every bit of your marketing should talk to one person.
Cool. And then Charles said, where do you gather the demographic information? But you're going over that inside of the course.
That's a much longer conversation.
Yeah. Enables you to input age, sex, income, suburban, etc. So yeah. So if you have a buyer, right, in mind, that you'll teach us how to speak to that ideal buyer, right? Exactly. Or if you're already selling a product now, finding that who mainly buys your product would then be your ideal buyer.
Well, yeah. So you will, if you're selling a product now, and congratulations if you are. So let's say that you're selling $10,000 a month. Now you might be selling $1 million a month, or what doesn't matter, or 1,000 a month, doesn't matter. $10,000 a month, and you find out that 8 of that $10,000 is coming from ages 40 to 49, and let's say they're male, just for grins. So you know a little bit about your ideal buyer, right? But even if you are, and that's if you're in like your own demographic, you know, this would be the case, then that you fall victim to believing that you are your avatar, but you're not. You've gone further than your avatar. You have to go backwards in time before you were ever you in today's world. And things have changed since you've changed. So you have to find out what people are saying right now in that age group, in that bracket, about what you were talking about. How are they phrasing the problem? What are they saying? Is there a buzzword? And occasionally you'll get really lucky when you do this research. You'll find that there's some new buzz term. Like I remember how ladies, I say ladies just because it's mostly used in female marketing. Have you ever heard the term muffin top? Yeah, right. Muffin top. Okay. Muffin top became the phrase that marketers started using. And I don't remember the exact year, but I remember the year before that I never heard of it before, and no one had ever heard of it before. And then somebody somewhere used it. And the next thing you know, you've got all these ideal avatars of mine using the term muffin top. And so we found it, through this research, and changed our subject lines from belly fat to muffin top, and just shot to the roof. So that's what we're going to be doing. Sometimes you'll get lucky and you'll find a term like that, but we're not really looking for terms. We're looking for the way that somebody says something. It's the way that they say. And I'll give you one more thing on this. Specifically, this will help you, believe it or not, relationally speaking too. So, because some of this stuff I learned through study of relationships and psychology. My wife is a psychologist, so it's knowing how to work with what's called imagotherapy is really cool. It's where you echo back what's I'm simplifying this greatly, but it's where you echo back what your partner is saying, and using the words that they're using specifically so that you can develop deeper intimacy, but deeper empathy. And that's what we're doing here without the partner dynamic. We're doing this here as a coach or as a mentor dynamic. So imagine if the person that you're talking to is just in his or in her head, just going, man, I just can't get rid of this muffin top. And you're sitting there talking about abs. It's not gonna do this, right? So that's one way. But also, how does he or she say this? How do they say this? Do they say, I hate this muffin top? Or do they say, and we're talking on averages because everybody's gonna say something differently. Or do they say, this irritates me, or I can't, this hurts my stomach when I wear my clothes. I can't wear, hurts my waistline where my jeans, fast. What are they saying about it? So that you can echo back, if it hurts right where your jeans buckle because you have, and all of a sudden they're going to go like, my gosh, that person was reading my mind. I was just talking about that. So yeah, that's exciting to me. That to me unlocks how you should speak to somebody, and it's your responsibility. It's not a gimmick. It's not you could use this for manipulative purposes, but that's not the intention. The intention is just like it would be in a relationship, to find out how your partner, your significant other, is voicing their pain is one of the most loving things you can possibly ever do. So I'm sorry to go deep on you, but I go meta on all the coaching I do. So it is one of the most loving things you could ever do. If you can learn how to echo that back and go and really understand where they are coming from. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's like, so I'm doing this I want to do this with my clients, my customers. I want to know their pains and echo it back, because it's a loving thing to do. It's not meant to be anything other than that. So, but it does help with selling too. So we're in the business of selling things that help people, I hope. So you want to be able to speak their language.
Absolutely. Right. And yeah, Charles, and your system enables a market to get the most current language, right? And so you're going to teach us the most current way to find what our avatar is looking for and talking about.
Yeah, well, yeah, it literally, and I use that word infrequently, but literally as frequent as current as possible. Yeah, like hours old. It's and sometimes they're older than that. But my point is that yeah, you're going to find out. You can do the research and find what you need to find, and then test it. And I'll give you this hint, right? Because I'm going to give you the training anyway. But this is one thing I'll tell you to do. You can test it in subject lines. And you can always tell. And there's a way I'll teach you in the course that the subject line is not enough. There's one other thing that you do. But see, I'm opening a lot of loops. but yeah, you can test this. You don't have to spend a lot of money on ads. You can test it. You can even test it on Facebook. It's just not as efficient. Like if you have a free Facebook account, like whatever your Facebook profile is, you can test it.
Awesome.
So
awesome.
yeah,
I'm going to paste the link here again. Cool. And then Charles asked, does your course also show where are the places with the most demand or up and coming demand?
I don't understand the question. Are you talking about what markets are in demand, or can you be more specific, Charles?
Charles, you come off mute too. It's a pretty small group here.
So yeah, if Charles wants to come off,
Mute.
that's
Am I on?
You're on.
yes.
Am I on?
Hey, Charles.
Okay. So I'm thinking in terms of Amazon here. For example, I have heard vaguely that you can use techniques to figure out where the demand is for particular products. Or if you're trying to figure out the correct and not just the product, but the particular angle for which to pitch the product, so that so it's just a general research. So you start out going, okay, let's go look for something for which there's a large untapped demand, and you can get a category, and then you chunk it down to, okay, what shape, what particular angle, what service is it the people are particularly looking for in this thing that's not properly demanded, and that's not with a need that's not properly serviced, so that all of this architecture, that's architecture that you have developed can be aimed at a particular place where it will be of the most value. So I mean, it's kind of weird to create all this huge value at a target for which there's not that much a demand. So did that make sense? I'm talking beyond what I actually understand.
No, I mean, I got you. I think I got you entirely. So as far as market demand, there's so many different vectors that you can take to determine that. There's a lot of different factors that go into what market demand is. And what I'm going to be teaching in this course is primarily focused on somebody who's got an offer and they know that they have a good idea of who they like, what they want to sell. So from where you want to go, like, for example, I'll give you like, hope maybe this is kind of what you're asking. So let's say I have a weight loss book. So I kind of know how I'm wanting to target, but there may be a market that's hotter than the other market, right? So in other words, if I may be going after, 18-year-old fitness athletes, where I should be going after 69-year-old, grandmothers. So if that's what you mean, the best, and I hate to say this, but direct response gives you the best shot at that, because direct response is you're at first, at least you're opening a shotgun of portal. So you're running ads to seeing who's interested. So you're getting some sort of like buyers that are going to be, then you look at, where your where the percentage of those buyers are going to be going. But to do research into a specific product or service and know what market would be untapped in that, or what would be the best position to go for that, is going to be beyond the scope of probably this. Although one of the bonuses
Okay.
that we give away does cover this. So, and Leanne, you may, if you're still on here, I don't know if Leanne can come on. Market research blueprint is the first thing that I thought of, because it's one of the bonuses that we give away here. It's not even on the webinar thing, but and that may be a place to at least get started there. What we're talking about is less that and more once you know generally who you're wanting to sell to, then you have to speak specifically to them. So Leanne,
Okay,
could
yeah.
we bring Leanne off? Could you bring Leanne off mute? Darby?
Yeah, she is. Let's see.
Just asked her to unmute.
Yeah. Okay, great. So she might have stepped away for a second, but when she gets back, Charles, no, she's here. She might be in the car too. So, Leanne, you there? Okay, well, I don't know what's going on there, so I'll not getting a good connection over there. So Charles, when we get a better connection to my assistant here, we'll hopefully get a better answer for you on that question, because that one bonus is probably where you want to look. But I tend to look more toward what's going, the general idea of who you want to market to. And that doesn't mean that, by the way, that the places that you're marketing are the best. Like somebody may come up to me tomorrow and say, oh, you know where you should be marketing this VSL course is on Pinterest. And I'm like, I've literally never been on Pinterest. So, I mean, you see what I'm saying? Like there's no way that one person can point you in all the right directions for every different product, because somebody would have to know VSLs and marketing or whatever to know that, oh, this is what happened. Can you mute that?
Yeah.
Darby? Yeah.
Mhm.
So so now we know where my assistant good to go. That's good. Yeah, she wasn't supposed to even be on the call, so this is extra credit. But yeah, so hopefully we'll get an answer. The only reason I'm passing this up to her is she actually does a lot of this market research herself. So that's I go right into the avatar. I go right into discovering how to speak to your ideal buyer, and that does assume that you are in a market that is giving you customers, that is finding you customers. Now, and I'm the first one to tell you that I wouldn't be the person to go to say, oh, the emergent market for this product is really over here, unless I knew it really well, unless I knew the industry really well. So I don't know if anyone could. I don't know. You'd have to know every single, marketplace.
Mhm.
Now, I can say this, like my clients hire me for, don't freak out or anything, but $5,000 an hour is my consultation rate. And they'll ask me, is the position for this offer right? But the reason why I'm successful at that is because I only take people that I know their industries. Like if I don't know their industry, if they come to me and they're saying, I want to open a nursing college, this just popped into my brain for some silly reason, a nursing college. Well, I know, look, I know I come from a scientific background, so I know science and studied, all that stuff in college and nutrition, all that stuff, but I know nothing about nursing. And so I would be like, I have no idea. I can tell you once you show me the avatar, I can tell you if you're hitting the hot spots, right? Hitting the right hot buttons. But and I can often come up with positioning that's going to be a little bit different than what people think based just on simple marketing knowledge. But the specifics, I think, is a little bit beyond this course.
I think we have this one last question. I want to respect your time, John, for being on for an hour here with us. But Deb asked, I don't know if you can see the chat. It's a little bit longer.
Let me open up real quick here.
She said, so with George's earlier question about new products and refining product market fit, I understood it to mean that A/B testing of different VSLs would provide evidence for the questions one was asking. Is that reasonable? Or in this framework, is the process of answering questions all before the VSL is made?
The process of answering the questions is both before the VSL is made, because you can answer the yes. You can say, yes, I have got my this, I've got my that. I gave you all the 9 questions. We can go back over them if you want to. I've got all of this down. And you should still split test, because just because you have a pattern interrupt doesn't mean that you're using one is going to give you the optimum bang for your buck. So I will often test 3 different leads right off the bat. So That's the first minute or so of a VSL. That's going to never change that. And I don't like that answer because I don't like split testing, because split testing is laborious. I like the creative side of things, like doing it, but you have to, you have to split test headlines. You have to. And I know friends of mine, the best marketers I know are the guys that are split testing things to a almost ludicrous degree, like testing, like they're testing the color of buttons and the size of the button on the page. And then my friend Matt Basak figured out that his page was all black converted better. Like, as in other words, it's black and white, and literally the button is black. Have you ever seen a black order button on a page?
No.
His black page is killing all his other. Oh, I mean, yeah, I like, but he's like, you know, what's that? So I was going to say ACD, but I think that's a band. He's OCD big time, and so he's like, you know, I'm gonna test it. I'm gonna test it, and I'm not that way, so I'm gonna let things slide. But he would never have found that out if he didn't test it, and yeah. So yes, you have to split test, Deb. Hate to tell you that. But I'd be dismissive of what it takes to win these things if I didn't. But I'll put it this way: all your split tests should have all 9 of those framework components in it for sure. For sure. I mean, there's a few grace points. Like, there's a couple of that you could say, okay, this one's okay because I have to have more than one price point or something like that. But even then, I'm gonna push everybody to try to do all 9.
And I just think that what you're teaching just refines the process and the ability to create that so much faster and have like a more confidence in what you're writing and putting out there and what Jasper is creating too. So I think it's all so necessary.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. And yeah, and back to George's question, just to circle back to it, is that if you have, like, in other words, if you're in a market right now and your position is you're trying to sell underwater basket weaving, and you're advertising in sub-Saharan Africa, okay, I'm going to be able to say, you know what, your positioning, your market angle is completely wrong. Okay, that doesn't, I don't have to know anything about underwater basket weaving. But the nuances of that, like if you're advertising in your dog trainer and you're advertising or dog training book or whatever. And as a dog freak, I know a lot about dogs, right? So I could probably say, oh, you know who you haven't thought about? And I think, but here's where I think your little bit of saving grace can come in. And that's with Jasper. Now, I say this because as a guy that owns 2 software platforms, I say this because I love using different tools. And I've already told my team that you need to be using Jasper to help us inside CopyPro, and very much like they're using now VSL, Crypto now VSL to help them. And we need to work together because we've got you put this stuff together. It's awesome. So one of the things that I think it was Austin that said this, Darby, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but he said that somebody was trying to sell tinted windows, and they were going for this whole paparazzi angle. So back to Charles's question, if I remember the story correctly, they had this hook and this idea that, hey, our target market is these young, rich people in Beverly Hills that they're afraid of paparazzis. And so it's kind of clever, tint your windows so the paparazzis have nothing to stare at or whatever. And it didn't do that well. And so they entered the rough basics of the ad, not the paparazzi part, but just what they do, tinted windows, where they were at, blah, blah, blah. And Jasper came back with the hook that blew them all away, which was, moms, protect your kids from UV radiation by tinting your windows. It's like, I wouldn't know that. You wouldn't know that. But Jarvis has read the entire internet. So Jarvis knew that. And we're like, oh, well, that's the hook. And so what's really cool is, as a copywriter, if you showed me something I know nothing about, which is tinted windows, I can tell you right now which one will pull better. I can't say which for sure, but I can definitely point you in the direction I think would be hotter. And the moment that was said, I was like, oh yeah, that's the direction. So back to George's comments. If you come to me and say, you've done your homework, you've entered this in Jasper and said, I've got 3 different angles, I could probably tell you, I would test this one first. And I'm not going to be 100% right 100% of the time. If I was, I'd be, superhuman rich, like way Elon Musk rich, but yeah, we're pretty good at it. So
Cool.
Anyway, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So anyone have any other questions here?
Any last questions from the crowd?
So I want to say too, oh, okay, we got a question from Rick.
Yeah, Rick says, Copy Pro, Jasper, funnel scripts and closers copy. Will this course and bonus clarify this copywriting puzzle?
Well, first of all, thank you. So yeah, closers, I don't know. I know those other guys. So I don't, as far as the copywriting puzzle. So if you're trying to be a copywriter, or if you're simply wanting to pull into life the skills of a copywriter as much as you need to make an offer sell. So that would be the clarification I would need to know. But assuming that you're talking about copywriting as a marketer, as in other words, you have a product you're wanting to sell because you're using different tools to do this, sell supplements. Okay, so as a guy that sold a lot of supplements online, okay, I can tell you right now that I mean, I think I've probably written more supplement VSLs than anyone. I mean, I think that's true, but yeah, I mean, I wrote most of BioTrust's VSLs. I could just go down the line of the supplement VSLs written for On It, written for, so very common to do. I do consults almost every single week with people that are in the supplement world. And I can tell you right now that the people that have gone through this VSL training in Now VSL, which you now have, by the way, at least if you're coming aboard this, and obviously the attention framework stuff, you're going to be able to apply to everything across the board. So, and you're going to be able to take Copy Pro. I can speak obviously from the creator of that. You're going to be able to take Jasper from what I've seen for sure. And, funnel scripts, I can't speak to directly. I mean, I know Jim, it's more of it's not as complex as their webinars are like 5 minutes long. Ours is an hour. So but it's the same general idea, which is a common theme in this industry. You'll be able to take those tools and get the most out of them without a doubt. And when it comes to selling supplements, I can tell you just from having dozens of clients go through Now VSL just by itself, and they're doing millions online. So I mean, it most certainly will help. So just the Now VSL by itself would help. And then you put all that stuff you combine those tools with Jasper for the research, Jasper for the 90-second scripts, and the framework stuff to make sure, I would think it would cut through. But I'm not going to say that if you get all of that you're going to be an A-level copywriter. I think that will give you the tools that will produce A-level copy, but that's different than being an A-level copywriter. So that's why I needed to get a little bit. But yeah, that's my wheelhouse, man. People come to me that's predominantly what I do consulting wise is I work with people in the health and supplement based space. So I could say that for sure. That was easy. That was not that's not a underwater basket.
Okay. Then Charles asked, when you finish the course, how long will it take to create a VSL? I don't.
There's a few ways to approach that, right? Like the actual creation of it.
So did you, first of all, if you're talking about the mini VSL, how fast do you type would be the question. I mean, that's literally, if you're in Jasper and you finish the course, so you're gonna the three fields that the three specific attention framework fields that are in Jasper in the mini VSL, you will have all the answers. So you've already done that work. So it's just a question of how fast you type, because then you're going to press a button and you're going to get a mini VSL. If it's a long form VSL, it takes, what I tell people to do when they get Now VSL is don't freak out. You've got 90 some odd videos, okay, but they're all like short, most of them at least. And you've got all these different components of a long form VSL. Just chunk your way through it. Give yourself spend an hour a day getting through it, because it will take the average copywriter on average a week to a month to write a VSL. And this is going to do it for you in a week, and you're not a copywriter. I mean, even if you just take it just a little bit at a time. So once you've done the class and done the research, it's going to flow very, very quickly. I would give yourself a week. And I'm talking about a week where you're not a whole week, like you're working 10 hours a day for a week. That's not going to take you that long, but give yourself a week, because you'll come back to it. You'll edit it. You'll look at it. You'll reread it. And can I leave with a great tip that you guys can use whether you come to my class or not? I would love everyone to say, hey, this was a super profitable thing for me to show up to today, even if you're not a customer. That's so hopefully everyone can say that. The secret to great converting everything, sales pages, anything, sales pages, emails, certainly VSLs, without a doubt, is when you are done with your VSL, you should copy and paste all the script. And by the way, now VSL lets you do this, copy and paste it right from one web page. So copy and paste it, go to an app like Hemingway or an app like, I'm drawing a blank on the name now. It's the one I paid for. It's kind of funny, but there's many apps that will test the readability score of this, right? And you're looking for a readability score that's extremely high. And specifically, you want this under 5.5 grade level. So if you have a readability score under 5.5, your chances of this converting are going to go way, way up. And then that's not enough because people stop there, right? Here's what you do. Then instead of proofing it by reading it, I want you to proof it by talking it, speaking it, preferably to one person. And if you can do this, if you want to take this tip on steroids, take that one person and make sure that one person is your ideal buyer. Now, it doesn't have to be somebody that would literally buy something. It'd just be someone that's generally descriptive of your ideal buyer. Like I might want to pick my wife's mom, for example. Now, I'm not saying she would buy my weight loss book if I was selling one, but she's in that age range. So she's similar. She has a similar desire like that. She doesn't to lose weight, but she would understand it. So that's even better. And if they understand and they're not nodding off, you might have a winner on your hands. But that's the research I like to do before I do anything. I read it out loud. And because when you read it out loud, you'll catch every little speed bump. If you stumble over something, stop, just edit it. It's wrong. If something sounds confusing, stop. It's wrong. It's wrong. If something's too long-winded, like there's 15 words in a row, it's wrong. And just those absolutes, I'm going to give you about 20 more absolutes in the course. They're going to help you take a VSL, get a much, much, much faster high converting VSL.
Wow. I'm already seeing how we can do that, and just in the mini VSLs we're writing right now. So that's awesome. Awesome.
That's a great tip.
Yeah. And then Charles asked,
thank you. My assistant says, "Oh, I'm back. Sorry." Readable.com. Yeah, I do use Readable, and I totally forget the name of Spaz name, but Readable is great, and it will give you a lot of information that it'll grade the copy. Yeah.
So Charles, the first 3 days is working with John on creating going through the 9 attention frameworks and creating the long VSL script. And then the next 3 days, Darby and I will have specific recipes that you can use alongside inside of Jasper for helping you with the VSL. Did I get that right, Darby? I'm not missing anything.
Yeah, because you're going to have everything inside of Now VSL, and all the frameworks and everything that follow, and we're going to use Jasper to help just, smash through, just do it much, much faster.
Yeah. So by the end of it, you'll be able to create a 90-second, a long form VSL. Well, like there's a 5-minute VSL, I believe, in there as well. Like all different types of the VSLs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what's really cool about Now VSL, I didn't even give a demo of it in the webinar. I just talked about it. But what's really cool about it is you can take, once you do your long form VSL, which is what I recommend doing first, you press a button and your 5-minute VSL is done and your 1-minute VSL is done. Now the 90-second lead VSL isn't done because it's not in the main package. So that's why we put that script in Jarvis or Jasper. I'm gonna keep saying that despite his hat. I mean, it's force of habit.
I'll have to send you I'll have to send you a hat.
Yeah, definitely. And then 20, you also have a 20-minute VSL, and those all have separate uses. That you'll have it all at the same time. Cool.
And then Charles asked the downstream cost once the course is done. I want to be respectful of time too, John, too. So I'm not sure if you're okay to keep answering questions or.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I want to make sure everybody's questions are answered, but when he says downstream costs, I'm not really sure what you're referring to.
Yeah.
Are you referring
Are there downstream costs for the program after the course is done? Charles, you want to maybe come off mute again too?
Yeah, if he's referring to monthly costs for my program itself. I mean, I know there's a monthly fee for Jasper, but there's not. a
Right,
monthly fee for-
correct. I mean, we're sold on, we did training programs for Jasper, and then once we got through it, then there's a fee to use, fee to use Jasper. So I'm thinking analogously, you have a training program, and then once the training program is done, we would have a monthly fee to use.
No, not unless you wanted to get involved in CopyPro. I mean, that's a different. It's not only different software; it's a different company. I mean, we wrote two different programs for two completely different reasons, and I am such a big believer. Obviously, created the VSL. The VSL is so uniquely different than everything else. It needed its own platform, and so that's why I have CopyPro over here for everything but VSLs. I do some short form VSLs in CopyPro, but the long form,
So-
60-minute monsters, no, you have that for free. So there's no monthly cost at all.
Oh, that's very nice. All right, that's what I wanted to know.
Mhm.
What is the CopyPro? Why do we need in order to use the VSL software? Do we also need the CopyPro?
No.
Okay.
I mean, would CopyPro come in handy? Of course, we have the world's, some of the best copy library in the whole world inside CopyPro, and that's awesome. But it's like if you want to add an opt-in page, emails, long form sales letter, all that stuff, that's what CopyPro does. But to use strictly for VSLs, no. I've got customers that only have one or the other, and I've got a lot of customers that have both because they use them interchangeably. But and then let's not forget that you've got get the world's greatest copywriting AI in Jasper. And I say that, and we have AI in CopyPro, but we're not an AI based copy system. They are, and so you've got these tools all have their place. And I have a lot of tools in my arsenal, man. But it's like, but no, you don't need it. I'd love for you to have it, but you don't need it unless you need it.
Okay, how much is copy?
you want
My guess is your point is that you can simulate CopyPro with Jasper, and since the ideal is to use the language that's being used right now, which will be provided in the course, the library of that would be better than using the library of information that's available in CopyPro, correct?
No, actually, the library of information that's used in CopyPro is based around the input of your ideal buyer's voice. So you would simply take, it's the same thing with Jasper. You know how like you enter fields, you enter data into fields, and we were we were doing a matcha thing. Well, if you just entered the phrases, like instead of saying like low energy, for example, was one of the things I think Austin entered. And if you knew that your avatar said, some phrase, I don't know what it would be, but something, that's they're saying something slightly different, then Jarvis is going to spit that out back to you in probably in other ways that are very similar. Same thing with CopyPro. This is the exact same thing. This is what you enter into those fields is going to determine what that is. And so that's why this research is so vitally important to do, and so vitally important to get your head around, because it's going to affect everybody you're marketing. But as far as
we don't need both. If we got Jasper, we don't need CopyPro.
Well,
correct?
I couldn't say that without knowing more what you wanted to do. For example, there are things, and Darby, correct me if I'm wrong here, but there are things that obviously there are things that Jasper does that CopyPro doesn't, and there are things that CopyPro does that Jasper doesn't. So it just depends on what you want to do. Like if you
I'm working on a book on COVID. On COVID, specifically long COVID, and I'll probably follow it up by another ebook on how to bulletproof your body against various viruses.
Awesome. That's one of my favorite topics. So interesting you should say that.
I would be able to there wouldn't be any information. There wouldn't be any information that's dated, because all of this is stuff that in the last 2 years. That's the problem.
Last 2 years, I lost you. What is the last 2 years?
Jasper only goes up to 2019. Their
Oh, okay, sorry,
database
sorry,
only,
yeah.
okay, only goes up to 2019. So maybe
So
I should just give. Yeah. So the research that I do on it, and everything is outside of the scope of Jasper, and it would probably be outside of the scope of Copyscape because it's only 2 years old.
Yeah, but
The
that's not,
information.
I can't speak for Jasper. I'll let Darby speak for Jasper. I can speak for CopyPro. It's not
Yeah.
limited by time. I mean, it's the research that you're going to do would determine what you use to fill in CopyPro. We call it a marketing niche to complete your marketing niche. No, our copywriters do a lot of it for you if you want, or you do it all yourself. It's up to you. And if you do it yourself, it's what you put in those fields, it could be relevant to 2022 an hour ago. So it's not time related. It's the words around that are the copywriting part that you don't have to do. So CopyPro takes that away, where Jasper does it in a totally different way. But you still have to enter data into a field. So to get the data back from Jasper. So
one way or the other, you have to come up with data. Okay.
One way or the other, you have to come up with the data, and I'm going to show you how I come. By the way, I'm going to show you how I teach people to come up with the data, and it's the best I've ever seen. That's all I can tell you, and it works extremely well. And I can guarantee you will even help in this particular topic. Anything health related, it's really going to help because you need to understand completely get what people are saying, and COVID's one of those things. Without going into COVID, we're so inundated with COVID information. You might think that you already know what your avatar is saying about it, but other than this sucks and I hate it, all this stuff. But yeah, there's a lot more, I'm sure. And the guy that studied virology in college, I have a passion for that topic. But nonetheless, the direction that you need to go, and I'm speaking directly I'm not speaking directly to you, I'm speaking to everybody, is what language patterns do I need to learn that my ideal buyer is using. And if we can learn that, if we can get a grip on that, it's going to make Jarvis better. It's going to make Jasper better. Damn, even with a hat on, that's all right. Sorry, bro.
Okay.
It's going to make Jasper better. It's going to make CopyPro better. It's going to make NowVSL better. And I can't speak for the other two, but I can speak for those three. It will definitely make it better. So that I can guarantee you. So,
the stuff you
John?
did before you even title work in.
Yeah.
Was that? Oh yeah.
So is that Leanne?
Yeah, I just I've been listening to this conversation. I just if I could add a couple of things about the research, I think people will be very surprised that you keep saying ideal buyer, and that's a phrase like ideal buyer is good, but people need to realize that they have more than one buyer, right? Like there's your ideal buyer who maybe is the largest segment of the population, who has the most money, whatever. But like for any product, like what I uncover in research, as you mentioned before, that's one of the things I do, is that say a product may have a ton of different avatars for many different reasons. Like if it's a hair loss product or a hair restoring product, you could have young men under 24. You could have older women over 50. You could have cancer patients. And of course, they all have different reasons, right? So that's where the research is so important. And you get to pick which avatar you want to market to. You can market to all of them.
Well, yeah, but you would never market to all of them in the same VSL. You can market to all of them in the same VSL when you get down to hey, it also works for X, Y, Z, A, B, Z, right? That's totally cool. But Leanne is completely correct. When I say your ideal buyer, I'm referring to for a specific avatar. In other words, she just gave a great example. Let's say men over 40 losing their hair, women over a certain age losing their hair, chemotherapy patients. Okay, three completely different. Some of them may crisscross, right? But those are different angles. Like for the men losing their hair, it's a lot different emotionally. It's a lot different psychologically than for women going through alopecia. That is a much different conversation. And we don't need to be hair experts to figure out that topic is true. what I'm saying is that those would be two completely different VSLs that would use a lot of the same components, a lot of the same offers, but the leads would be different, the language would be different. And that's why what we're talking about is so freaking vital, because if you don't know this stuff, you just can't learn. And so Leanne, the question I asked, and then we got to call it a day. I know that we're running out of time, but I asked earlier, is like market research blueprint is one of the bonuses, and that'll be given away during the course. And we're talking about trying to find areas that, for exactly what Leanne just said, let's say that you have a product that helps grow hair and you're only thinking about men, right? And you forgot about alopecia in women, you forgot about chemotherapy victims, okay, patients, but and other people that we haven't even thought about. So wouldn't you agree that the research tools that we're giving them will help them determine that?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, because we go that particular training goes deep down the rabbit hole, and you should go as deep as you can. And it should also be a living document where you never stop doing research, because your market is always evolving, and it's something that you need to keep up. I'm not saying doing it every day once you've got it nailed, but you do. And we show you a lot of places to go, from forums, media kits, Amazon, podcasts. I was researching for the hair thing, and I had no idea that young men were so upset about going bald to the point of wanting to kill themselves, and that they dreaded taking showers because they would lose hair during each shower. So imagine if you put that in a sales letter, but if you didn't know it, you're not going to say it. But if you did put it in, how powerfully that creates empathy, which is so important with your prospect.
And if I can, Leanne, I know we got to close out here, Darby. I know we have to call it a day at 2:30, but I do want to say, because you just sparked a really good idea. So now, as a marketer, as a copywriter, these things come to me very, very quickly. I will say that I'm going to teach you how to go through the creative process I just went through in my head. And when Leanne said, I'm afraid to go into a shower, right? So imagine the story just elongated for that. I know we're just making up a hypothetical product here, but a young male afraid to take a shower, it's like, I can see a story happening already. I lost my girlfriend because I just was too afraid. I stopped taking showers, and she just couldn't be around me any longer. It says, you stink all the time. I can see a story forming here that would be both sad and hilarious, and something that would make something stand out. Now, we went from nothing to that, right? And I'm not saying it's the greatest idea in the world, but that's just a creative process. What we just did is a simple step process that I'm going to talk to you about, what I'm doing in my head, and hopefully give you the tools to be able to come up with these ideas. And some of them will work and some of them won't, but this is how you develop all of them.
Wow.
So
amazing. And the
what do you guys?
$500 discount only comes with the full pay, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And the now VSL bonuses only come with the full pay.
So getting now VSL only comes with full pay, correct?
Yeah. Surprisingly, every single person, as far as I know, has second. But then again, I mean, it's because we have to make it. We have to make sure that people are serious, and plus to give them this intellectual property right off the bat is, I want to make sure that everybody's treated fairly. So.
Absolutely. Do clarify on the timing, guys. August 16th through 18th from 12 to 2 Central Time. And then that's for week 1. And then on week 2 is the 23rd through the 25th, same times, 12 to 2 Central Time.
That is it. I want to thank everyone for showing up here. Thank you for the Q&A sessions. Hope that did you guys, if you don't mind, raise your hand or say, I don't know if you can digitally raise your hand or not, but if you got something out of this, let me know.
I know.
Guys, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on and doing this with us, John. Really looking forward to this in a few weeks to kick this off.
Yeah, we're going to have a good time.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone.
Right, John. Well, thank you so much.
All right, John. All right, everyone.
Everyone have a great day.
Cheers, y'all.
Thanks, guys. Bye.